College prices are at an all-time high right now.
So you kind of have to go to college nowadays, and it's so expensive and so hard for people to do.
On this episode of Let's Talk Cincy, the cost of education and the information you need to know to navigate the financial maze, from student loans to scholarships.
So we talk about canceling student debt, but when we use that word, we can typically take the product or service back and get a refund. In this case, we're not canceling any debt. The service has already been provided. Students already have their education, they have their degree. So the question is not whether to cancel, but who is actually going to be paying for that service.
The dollars and cents helping you make the grade. From WLWT, this is Let's Talk Cincy, presented by Western and Southern Financial Group. Put our financial strength behind you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Curtis Fuller, and welcome to Let's Talk Cincy. Today, let's talk about the cost of higher education. The headlines have included the very latest moves to reduce student debt by offering loan forgiveness. Although appealing to folks who have outstanding loans, the reality is this idea is not without controversy. Reporter Jared Hill has more.
President Biden making good on a major campaign promise, delivering new relief on student loans.
It's about opportunity. It's about giving people a fair shot.
The plan wipes away $10,000 in debt for any federal borrower, $20,000 for low-income students who used a Pell Grant to help foot the bill. According to the White House, that's more than 60% of students who took out a loan. And the Federal Reserve says most borrowers owe less than $25,000.
Well, $10,000 worth of debt cancellation will be impactful, particularly for the lowest income of Americans who take out student loans.
So who qualifies? Individuals making less than $125,000 a year or $250,000 for married couples. Current students are eligible as well. But some argue this is unfair to people who either didn't go to college or already paid off their loans. Republicans, meanwhile, say they're worried about how this will impact the economy.
What it does do is it increases inflationary pressures. It adds to the taxes that Americans have to pay across the board.
As loans dominate the college conversation, another headline.
I ain't paying 50 grand.
The exploding cost.
50 grand a year, and then what? You're going to turn around and ask my child for 100 grand a year and my grandchild for 150 a year? When is it going to stop?
After the president's announcement, a new spotlight on the push for more than just one-time relief.
We have to overturn or overdo our federal student aid system.
The price of higher education is rising faster than inflation. On average today, a four-year college charges $17,000 a year for tuition and mandatory fees.
We're saying to these young people, you've got to get an education, but we are going to wrap the chains of debt around you.
That means factoring in inflation, students are paying more than twice as much for a ticket to a better future as they would have 30 years ago.
That ticket has become too expensive for too many Americans.
President Biden says the Department of Education is working on that part as lawmakers across the aisle and organizations like the Hunt Institute fight to reform interest rates. The typical undergrad student with loans leaves college about $25,000 in debt. But tack on the interest and the 10 years it tends to take to pay back the feds, that total can be closer to $30,000.
If we're pushing people into this post-secondary path, shouldn't we push them into a place where there's a tremendous amount of more transparency? I think that's something we believe interest-free loans will do.
Of course, we wanted to get the perspective of the folks who are impacted the most by the cost of college. So we talked with some local students to get their take on the problem and potential solutions. More now from reporter Todd Dykes.
It's probably not a shock to learn that of the 7 UC students I interviewed, each one is happy President Biden plans to forgive more than $300 billion worth of federal loan debt.
I think anything's beneficial at this point. I think that would be great.
$10,000, I would love to have that taken off of my loan.
College prices are expensive, so anything we can get helps.
I think that would be great for me. Graduating in a couple of years, I think that would be very nice.
So you kind of have to go to college nowadays, and it's so expensive and so hard for people to do.
UC freshman Cami Fielding says the president's debt relief plan could make college more accessible to more people.
Especially for minorities, and I think it would help put everyone kind of on the same playing field when it comes to paying for college.
UC economics professor Michael Jones understands why students are so enthusiastic.
Sure, it'll help them. So economics is all about trade-offs. And so those individuals will certainly be better off. They have more money that they can spend on certain services. But the way that this is going to be paid for is through higher inflation.
Jones worries that inflation, already a nationwide problem, will spike further because borrowers won't have to make good on their promise to fully repay Uncle Sam.
That money was going to go back to the federal government. So the federal government has already committed to providing lots of goods and services. And so now they're not getting that money back from those individuals who agreed to pay it. And so we're going to be spending that money regardless. And so that's how inflation is going to show up.
In Jones' opinion, taxpayers upset by the president's plan are on solid footing.
The people who entered into this loan, they knew what they were doing. The people who didn't have any input into where that person went to college, what degree that person pursued, we're asking them to pay for that decision.
Well, up next, we'll talk to two people familiar with navigating the financial road to college when Let's Talk Cincy continues. Welcome back, everyone. As we talk about this whole issue of student loans and how to pay for college, it is something that, believe it or not, right here in Cincinnati for over 100 years, there's an organization that has been dealing with this issue long before now. It's called the Cincinnati Scholarship Foundation. Imagine that. And here to talk a little bit more about that and some of the current issues, first of all, Whitney ONeal, who's the president of the Cincinnati Scholarship Foundation, the new president of the Cincinnati Scholarship Foundation, and Beth Collins, who is the program administrator for the Scholarship Foundation, who's been with the organization for how long, Beth?
32 years.
32 years, so she's no newcomer to this. First of all, welcome to the program and thank you, because this issue, as you know better than anyone, is on the front of mind of every parent. I want to begin with a little history, and I know Beth can talk a little bit about the history. I said it's been around 100 years. Talk a little bit about the history.
We've been around since 1918. Of course, back then we weren't known as the Cincinnati Scholarship Foundation. There were a couple of philanthropists, people who were really concerned about the number of students who were leaving high school to help with their domestic issues while mom was going to work and dad was fighting the war.
It's interesting that way back then, they understood that you have to create some kind of plan. This isn't just going to happen out of the blue. You really need a plan to finance college, even back then.
That's true. So they got together with other concerned citizens and managed to create a stipend program for high school kids. So that's where it all started.
Wow.
And the high school program continued up until just a few years ago.
If we fast forward to, I guess it was around 1988 or so, then that's when John Barrett and Joe Pickler and John Pepper and many others got together and said, we need to figure out a way to make sure that any kid who wants to go to college can, and finances won't be a problem. It's about right around that time.
It was actually in 1992 that the Greater Cincinnati Scholarship Association was begun, and they approached many different businesses, organizations, and individuals to put together.
14 million or something.
Yeah, about $14 million.
Yeah, back then that was a lot.
Yeah, right now that's
now
a lot.
it is, exactly.
And that was invested with the Greater Cincinnati Foundation. So we work closely with them in order to get these scholarships distributed to students coming from the Greater Cincinnati area.
Yeah, and that foundation, if you will, of the history is important because it's a reminder that we have people in this community that understand the significance of paying for college and supporting local students. And this involves all students, not just Cincinnati public school students, people should know.
Correct,
right?
that's true.
Yeah.
8 counties.
Yeah.
So basically Northern Kentucky, and we do Hamilton County up to Butler. So Indiana, Dearborn, right?
Dearborn County, yeah.
And we said 14 million back then is a lot. 14 million right now is a lot. but not enough, really, because there are so many students who talk a little bit about the need, if you will.
Well, I want to go back to what you said real quick about, we also have a bunch of individual people, you know, donors in Greater Cincinnati who also value and understand the importance. So we have many scholarships set up from individuals as well. So we administer, 120 different scholarships, including the Greater Cincinnati Scholarship Association Fund. So I just wanted to throw that out there because that's critical for us as well.
Very, very important because one person whose name always comes up when we talk about this is Johnny Bench. Johnny Bench has a scholarship, one of many. I've talked about the scholarship that I have there for young journalists. So a lot of people have that, and so you're absolutely right. I want to take a break. There's so much to talk about because I want to get back to the student loan issue, and then we'll talk a little bit more about how people can get involved with Cincinnati Scholarship Foundation. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Curtis Fuller. We're talking to Whitney ONeal, president of the Cincinnati Scholarship Foundation, and Beth Collins, program administrator for CSF. And let's go back to this whole issue about debt forgiveness. Obviously, a headline issue. I would suspect that you are in favor of the debt forgiveness?
Absolutely. I mean, we have so many kids. People think that if you are at a certain level of poverty that you go to school for free. That is not the case. I mean, you know, your thing said $17,000, $18,000 for tuition. Pell Grant maxes out at about $6,800, $6,900 a year. So we have kids, it's their first time going to college. They're trying to break the cycle of poverty, and yet they're expected to come up mysteriously with the other $12,000 a year to go to school. And so, yeah, when we are doing scholarship selection, we have a process, and we're looking at that. We're looking at how much debt are these kids going to take on, and they're being reasonable. They're going to local schools. You know, if they can live at home, they can. Some kids can't live at home and should not live at home. So, yeah, it's huge, and I'm hoping that with this debt forgiveness, it will encourage more kids to try and not be so scared about graduating with so much debt.
Yeah. There's no easy solution to this because the reality is that, and that story showed that you leave college with at least, probably, the majority, somewhere around $30,000.
At least.
So you're in the hole right at the beginning because you're not making a lot of money to start off. So it'll be interesting to see how the debate continues. Let's talk specifically about Cincinnati Scholarship Foundation because, you know, as you well know, I have a daughter who is just starting Miami. My oldest daughter has already graduated. So I understand the cost of college as well as anyone. And you see kids coming through. So what should people do? They should not start in the senior year, right?
Oh, correct. Oh, absolutely. I mean, someone was telling me the other day about how, I guess there used to be something in Cincinnati public schools where they taught the kids to save money. Yeah. And we should bring that back, like the little piggy banks and so forth.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, do not start in senior year, that's for sure. So what we do is we have all these scholarships. Kids go online in January 1. They fill out one application. We match the students to the eligibility of the various scholarships we have. Then we decide based on with the board committee, who's eligible and rank them accordingly. One of the things that we are looking at, Curtis, is impact versus number. You know, when you're looking at $18,000 to go to school, $1,000, don't get me wrong, our kids are very grateful. But what that really is a drop in the bucket. So our plan moving forward is we're trying to give larger scholarships, so they're more impactful. Some are transformational. I haven't had any of our donors argue with us at all. They're all on board, you know, because if they usually give out, you know, $9,000, $1,000 to each kid, and I'm like, how about 2 kids, split it, you know, and this is why, you know, so people understand that. But yeah, so we're also trying to give kids more than one scholarship. So if they're eligible for one, they're probably eligible for another one, and so forth. So that's where we're trying to fill that gap in. Also, one of my charges is try to get more people to set up scholarships with us. We're a nonprofit, it's a tax write-off. You don't have to be a millionaire to do it. There's all kinds of ways to fund it. So we look at it as we're investing in Greater Cincinnati, we're investing in our kids, and so are the donors. And like I said, we're not talking about kids that want to go to Cambridge, you know, and they don't have the money. I mean, these are kids that truly want to get an education. And not everybody can be an engineer. You know, some kids, like you said, communications and so forth. We need all those fields. So, yeah, yes. We've got to support our kids. It's not like it was when you and I went to school.
Yeah.
You know?
When should a parent contact you? How early can they get connected with you?
Well, they can begin talking to us at any time throughout the child's high school education, because we're happy to, you know, provide whatever information we can as they seek, you know, scholarship opportunities. You know, we also tell them that, you know, the internet is also a very good resource. Yes, we're the only sort of game in town in terms of, you know, doing scholarships exclusively. But we also say, you know, if your child's a sophomore, let's start looking on the internet and seeing what's out there. If you Google scholarships, it's amazing what comes up. There's just so much out there.
Yeah. And I guess the other reality is it is a lot of work. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean you can't think this is going to just happen.
Correct.
You have to invest the time and make it a priority because, you know, as you said, there are so many scholarships out there across the country, including what's happening here in Greater Cincinnati. Do you find that's the big challenge? People don't want to invest the time to do the research?
It's either that or they don't know.
Oh, okay.
You know, with the school staff shortages, you know, where we used to have a guidance department of 10, now there's 2 people trying to help all these kids and trying to, you know, take them on this journey and find resources. But oh, by the way, they're also teaching PE in the afternoon and coaching football and filling in for the Spanish teacher. So a lot of it is they don't know. And one of the things that we had talked about earlier is we're in the process of creating a new website for Cincinnati Scholarship Foundation, which should launch at the end of September. And a part of what we're adding is a resource page. That'll be phase 2, by the way, but so because we want to get that information out so that students and parents can go there and start figuring that out, because it is very overwhelming.
Yeah, it can be. In the few seconds we have left, I want to make sure that we say a number and an address, because again, all the thousands of students out there, they need to be in contact with you. So first of all, the address and telephone number that they can get in contact with. Our
address is 324 East 4th Street, downtown Cincinnati, 45202. And our phone number, I'll use my cell phone, so I'll
The phone number is 513-345-6701. Try to make it easy.
Yeah,
and it can go online to CincinnatiScholarshipFoundation.org.
Yeah, we don't want you to give out your cell phone.
Yeah, I don't mind. It's all.
Thank you very much, because
well,
this is an important discussion, and we're going to continue to discuss more about it throughout the year.
All right.
Hey, we're going to be back in just a moment. A special program about Marion Spencer and the Spencer Scholars. Back in a moment. Finally today, I love this story. As we talk about the costs of college, some very lucky students are getting a free ride over at the University of Cincinnati. They are Marion Spencer Scholars. Of course, this is named after the Cincinnati civil rights icon and my friend, Marion Spencer, who passed away back in 2019. You know, Mrs. Spencer was the first African-American woman to serve on Cincinnati City Council. She was the vice mayor. Her efforts in civil rights, along with her husband Donald, are legendary here in our city. Both graduates of the University of Cincinnati at a time, sadly, when the campus was not as welcoming to African-American students. Now, there is a building on that campus named after Mrs. Spencer and a scholarship program in her honor. Here's more now from our reporter, Meredith Stutz.
This year, UC celebrates record enrollment, welcoming approximately 48,000 Bearcats ready to tackle whatever life has for them both inside and outside of the classroom. And that includes 2 first-year students who bring more than just an impressive resume to campus.
As tens of thousands of UC students emerge from their summer breaks, there's a hope that this year will be different by being normal.
During the remote days, it was really difficult to feel like I was truly learning the material. And I'm so glad that I get to be here in person and connect with my professors, and it just feels so much more freeing.
Natalie Bennings is a first-year Marion Spencer Scholar. The full-ride scholarship program is reserved for the top 10% of Cincinnati Public Schools' senior class. Bennings is joined by Marcus Elliott. He thought he'd never make it to this day.
5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, I was a straight F student. They almost held me back a couple times. And I asked my best friend of 6 years at the time, we met in 2nd grade at school, who out of our friend group did he think would drop out of high school first? And he honestly said to me, he said, you.
So what changed? Marcus recalls a moment at 14 when he moved in with his mom and needed to change schools.
And she started crying because she didn't think a Cincinnati public school was going to take me because my grades were so bad. And that was the kind of moment where I realized, something needs to change.
4 years later, he graduated Euler High School as valedictorian. Here's the moment when Marcus found out he received his scholarship to be Bearcat bound.
And you have been admitted to the University of Cincinnati.
Oh my God! Oh my God! I'm just amazed that I'm here, and I'm just ready to start some work. It's going to be hard. I know it's going to be hard. It's going to be a completely different beast than what high school was, but I'm just happy knowing I've made everyone proud.
As for what's next, Natalie tells me she wants to study psychology, while Marcus tells me he's undecided. But if there's anything we've learned, it's that once he puts his mind to something, there's no stopping him.
And I can tell you that Mrs. Spencer would be proud of you, Marcus. She would be proud of all of the scholarship recipients. And what a wonderful thing to name this after our dear friend, the late Marion Spencer. Well, you know, we want to hear from you. Your ideas are so important. You can email us here at WLWT. Our address is ltc@WLWT.com. And remember, you can always watch full episodes or get more information on WLWT.com/Let's Talk Cincy and on our very local app. And you can also listen to Let's Talk on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Well, thanks for joining us. I'll see you next time for another edition of Let's Talk Cincy.